Hi, this session is revising some negative number skills and also applying negative numbers when dealing with BIDMAS or order of operations. Now, have a go at the following questions. This is just some revision to make sure you haven't forgotten your important negative number skills, because if you can't do some of these questions, you'll struggle with the next topic we're doing. So have a go first and then I'll go through them. Now I'll try and squeeze the answers underneath the question. So for question 1, we can see we have two negatives sitting together. So two negatives make a positive. So 2 plus 3 equals 5. That one was nice and easy. Now number 2, we'll be doing the exact same thing, except sometimes questions have brackets around a number. This one here is saying 8 take away a negative 2. Because we can't say, for example, 8 take away 2. It's actually, the brackets are there to say it's a negative 2. So really, the brackets don't have to be there, because in the brackets, there's nothing for us to calculate. So if the brackets weren't there, we know the two negatives are still sitting together. Okay? They're side by side, and they make a positive. So 8 plus 2 is 10. So you should have had 10 for that one. Number 3, we just got one negative, so we're saying 2 take away 7. Be very careful. If you said, oh, 7 take away 2 is 5, that's still not right. There's 5 units, so 7 take away 2 is 5, but because the small number is first, we end up with a negative 5. Okay? Or you can see that the bigger number is 7, and because 7 is negative, we put a negative on the 5. Number 4, now when it comes to multiplying and dividing, we know that the negatives and positives come together. So this 3, we know there's an invisible positive 3. Okay, so we can see we've got one negative and one positive that will come together. So first of all, what's 5 times 3? 5 times 3 is 15. And a negative and a positive come together to make a negative. So it's easy. Number 5, so this one has brackets. Once again, the brackets don't have to be there, but sometimes they're there. So we've got negative 8 divided by a negative 2. We can see we have two negatives. There's one there and one there. And also two negatives, because it's even, an even amount makes a positive. So that's another way of looking at it. Now, I'll do the answer here. So first of all, what's 8 divided by 2? 8 divided by 2 is simply 4. And it's a positive 4, because two negatives will come together to make a positive. You can put positive 4, or it can be invisible. Number 6, now don't be scared of a fraction. We know the vinculum, this fraction line here, simply means to divide. Now once again, what's happening is we've got negative 4 divided by negative 2. Two negatives divided together make a positive. 4 divided by 2 is just 2. Easy. Now number 7, when you get long questions where you're multiplying or dividing and you've got a lot of negatives and positives, the trick is to count how many negatives do you see in the whole thing. So I can see there's one there and another one here. So in the whole thing, there are two negatives, and because 2 is even, the answer will be positive. So in case you've forgotten, if you have an even amount of negatives, the answer will be positive. If you have an odd amount, the answer will be negative. And now just go from left to right. What's 1 times 2? It's 2. 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 1 is 2. So the answer is just positive 2. Okay, so hopefully that's all come back to you in case you've forgotten while you've been on camp. Now with the next few questions, it will involve BIDMAS, and I know some of you need to practice more when it comes to BIDMAS. So this may be tricky at first, especially with negative numbers, but practice makes perfect. Now I'll be doing a lot of questions that are similar or the same from your textbook. So from 7E on page 369, which you'll be working from later on. With the first question, I've put it down twice to show you the two different ways we can write it. And you can see how this negative 3 in the first part has brackets, whereas the second time I've written it, it has no brackets. They're the exact same questions. So I want you to remember the brackets don't have to be there unless there's something to work inside the brackets. So now, if the brackets, we'll look at the first one. What comes next? We're adding and multiplying. Okay, that's a -3. So we're adding and multiplying. So with BODMAS, we know multiplication comes first. So we're saying 3 times -3 first. And the same thing will be down here, 3 times -3. So please don't let the brackets confuse you. All right, so what's 3 times a -3? That will give us a -9. And then as the next step of your working out, put an equal sign. So you need to make sure you have one equal sign per line. And we've got left what? 2 plus is still there, a -9. It's really important, especially when you have negative numbers, to structure your working out properly. And like I said, a lot of you on your tests didn't do this properly. You got the right answers, but your working out was not clear. So it's really important that, especially with negative numbers, you do it step by step. You make one change and you write down everything else that's there and that change that you've done. So 2 plus and a positive and a negative, you can see now, make a negative. So for this one, we have 2 now, take away 9, and 2 take away 9, well, 2 is a small number, so straight away I know my answer will be negative. And 2 take away 9 is, or 9 take away 2 is just 7. So you should have gotten -7 for this one. So just remember, sometimes the brackets have to be there, sometimes they don't. So with our next question, first let's see, I can see brackets, but in the brackets, there's just a -2. So it's just saying we're dividing by a -2. So the brackets, there's nothing to work in there. Next, let's have a look. We've got, check out operations, that's a -4, but we've got multiplication and division. So we know with BIDMAS, multiplication and division are equal operations, which means neither comes first or last. We just work from left to right. So if you went 2 divided by -2 first, that's a mistake because you're not working from left to right. So we start from the beginning and we've got a -4 times a +2. That's what we do first. So -4 times a +2 would be a -8. And write down what's left, divided by a -2. You can put brackets if you want to. Okay, and then we're left with -8 divided by -2. 2 negatives make a positive. 8 divided by 2 is just 4. So you should have had +4. Now I forgot to mention that please make sure with each question on this lesson that you're writing it down first. And I want you to have a go at doing it before watching me do it. But please make sure you're writing down all the working out because I'll be checking everything in detail. If I don't see it all clearly written with the question and working out, you'll be watching it all again. Now this question has come straight from your textbook. So it's actually question 3H from 7E, just to give you the heads up. All right, now with this one, before you start anything, check your, well, we've got brackets here, but we can see in the brackets, once again, there's nothing for us to do. It's just a -3. So the brackets don't really have to be there at this stage. But we notice that we've got, so we're starting off with a negative. So that's saying a -2 times a 4. Then we've got plus, and then we've got multiplication. So the operations that come first is our multiplication. And there's 2 of them there. So I'm going to put brackets around the numbers side by side, this multiplication. So it's -2 and 4. And then the numbers side by side, this one is 8 and a -3. Okay, that plus has to come last, unfortunately, because multiplication comes first. So now work out what do we get from in each bracket. So work in this bracket first. -2 times 4. Well, we've got one negative, so it's going to be a negative. And 2 times 4 is just 8. So -8 in there. This one here, a +8 times a -3. Once again, we've got one negative. And 8 times 3 is just 24. And that's taken care of. Now, it's really, especially with a question like this, to show clear working out. I want you to write down now what we have left. So we've got a -8. Don't forget the plus sitting in the middle. Plus. And then this bracket gave us a -24. And you can see why it's so important. We can now see a negative and a positive are sitting together to make a negative. So our next line will have -8 minus 24. Okay, it's really important that you show working out for these. So now minus 8 minus 24, because they're both negative, we know the trick. Just add them together. What's 24 plus 8? It is 32, and we add a negative because we're heading towards the negative direction. And that's it. Okay, so please write this next question down and have a go first. And I'll start it now. So with this one here, we notice we've got lots of brackets. So, and there's a multiplication in between them. So first, let's look inside this bracket here. We've got 8 take away, and this is actually a negative 2. So because we see two negatives sitting together, they will make a positive. So we really have 8 plus 2. But then in this bracket here, I notice I've got the brackets on the outside and also brackets on the inside. And in these brackets, there's nothing for me to calculate. Just sitting in there is what? A negative 4. So the inside brackets don't have to be there. So really what I have is a positive and a negative sitting together. Because like I said, in those brackets, the negative 4, there's nothing to calculate. So a positive and negative will make a negative here. So we really have 16 take away 4. Okay, the first set of brackets, there was no brackets around the negative 2, but this one had a bracket around the negative 4. Sometimes the questions are like that, sometimes they're not. All right, so now let's work out what we got. 8 plus 2 is, so these brackets, 8 plus 2 gives us 10, and 16 take away 4 gives us 12. Now write down what we have left. We've got 10 times in between them, 12. And then 10 times 12, well, we get our 12 and add the 0 to give us 120. And that was it. Our next question is actually from your textbook. It's question 4N. So get another one out the way. So have a go first and then see how you go. So with this question here, I can see I've got brackets, and in my brackets, I don't just have one number, there's something for me to calculate. I've got -1 or -1 plus 4. All right, so because one's a negative, one's a positive, I'll just subtract them. And 4 take away 1 is just a 3. I'll put it down here. But is my 3 going to be negative or positive? Because 4 is larger and it's positive, it's a positive 3. Or you can just use a number line to help you as well. So that's taken care of. So before I do anything else, I'm going to write down everything that I have that's left. That's how you show clear working out. So what's left? We've got a -3 divided by. Our brackets are now gone, and we ended up with a 3. So we put the 3 down times 6. And that's how easy it is. Next, what operations do we have? Yes, there's a negative here, but it's simply saying a -3. We've got division and multiplication. And we know division and multiplication are equal operations. So now all we've got to do is work from left to right. And if you want to put brackets to show what we do first, you can. I will be going -3 divided by a +3. So what's -3 divided by a +3? Well, one negative makes a negative. And 3 divided by 3 is just 1. And don't forget now, we've got the times 6 that's left. And what is -1 times 6? Well, we know 1 times 6 is just 6. And our answer will be negative because we've got 1 negative and 1 positive. And that's how easy it is. All right, this will be our last one for this session. And this is also the last question that you have to do for your classwork and homework, which is 4O, okay, from exercise 7E. So have a go first, and let's see how you go. So with this one here, I notice I've got my first focus for BODMAS or BIDMAS is brackets. So I can see I've got brackets here and here. This -9, we don't actually need the brackets. It's just saying a -9, nothing to calculate in there. But these brackets, okay, these are my outer brackets, and inside there is something for me to calculate. In these brackets, I've got 8 plus a -2. So these brackets inside are simply saying we have a -2. Nothing to calculate in there, so I just circle the positive and the negative to make a negative. And then we have 8 minus 2. What's 8 minus 2? That is 6. So the whole thing in that bracket is simply 6. Before I work anything out, I'm going to stop there and write down what I have left. So I've got a -5. There's a takeaway here. Really important, you don't forget that. So -5 take away a 6 plus 9 divided by a -9. And these brackets, once again, don't really have to be there. Now, what do we do next? Do I just go -5, take away 6 and plus 9? No. We can see we have division. And division comes next. So with this one, I'll be going, you can circle the positive 9 or you can just circle the 9, it's okay. So 9 divided by a negative 9, that's what I'm doing first. 9 divided by 9 is just 1. But because we have one negative and one 9's a positive, the whole thing will be negative. And that's it. So we've got a negative 1. So write down what we have left. We've got minus 5, minus 6. There's a plus here and minus 1. Next, we can see a positive and a negative make a negative. So we finally, almost there. What we've got now is minus 5, minus 6, and minus 1. And all we're going to do now is work from left to right. And because they're all negative, okay, we've got a negative 5, negative 6, negative 1. Just add them all and add the negative. Or you can just work from left to right. So 5 plus 6 is 11, and 11 plus 1 is 12. So the answer is simply negative 12. So please make sure you do all those questions from questions 3 and 4. The more you practice, the better it is. Make sure you write the question out and make sure your working out is clear with one equal sign per line. And also, if you want more of a challenge, I want you to do questions 11 and 12 from that same exercise because some of those are actually more challenging. So try 11 and 12 if you want more of a challenge. Thank you.